Heartwarming revelation, Maid offers life-changing Marrow to save Billionaire's daughter from 90 chance of survival. Maria rushed through the rooms of the West family mansion, her heart pounding like a bass drum. Every sweep of her cloth against the polished surfaces, every flicker of dust that danced in the sunlight, felt like a dose of hope against her struggles. Tommy, her bright-eyed young son, was all she could think of. The bills were mounting, and each day she worked harder to scrape together a life for him, one filled with opportunities she had never had. But today felt different. The air buzzed with tension as the news echoed from the West family. Their daughter, Lily, had been rushed to the hospital, her laughter silenced by a threatening blood disorder. Maria stole glances at the family portraits hanging on the walls, happy faces at lavish parties, summer vacations by the sea. The Wests had everything, but today, they were as vulnerable as anyone. She felt a pang in her chest, knowing that their world, filled with wealth, was fragile, just like hers. As she wiped down the family's dining room table, she imagined heartfelt dinners, memories baked into the food, laughter bouncing off the walls. Yet in stark contrast, her life felt like a series of relentless battles in a modest apartment across town. The commotion around the mansion grew louder. Maria's head swirled with emotions: fear for Lily, a strangely comforting realization that she had something to offer. She had her DNA tested a few months back. What if? Could her own blood be a lifeline? It was a wild thought, bursting with hope. The juxtaposition of her struggles with her potential to save a life that seemed so far removed made her heart race. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. After hours of cleaning, the Wests assembled in the living room, a sea of anxiety. Maria watched them from the kitchen door, her heart in her throat. The father's brow was furrowed, and the mother's hands trembled as she clutched a phone, searching for answers. It was in that moment of chaos that the question bloomed in Maria's mind, like a stubborn flower thrusting through concrete. Could she really step forward? The weight of her reality felt layered now. She had been struggling for respect and recognition for so long, but could she transcend her position to be a savior? Suddenly, she saw the worry etched into the Wests' faces. They were no longer just wealthy employers but parents fearing for their child's future. Could this shared pain forge an improbable bond? As she gathered her courage to approach them, the stakes soared high. Would they see her as just a maid, or could they recognize her humanity? Just when Maria's heart swelled with hope, a sudden knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Will her boldness yield a chance at understanding? Or will she remain trapped in the walls of unspoken judgments? In that moment, everything hung in balance, and the answer awaited just beyond the door. Maria took a steadying breath, her heart thudding loudly in her chest. The knock on the grand door echoed in the silence that filled her mind with a million thoughts. As she hesitated, the West family turned to the door, their collective gaze filled with a flicker of hope. It was as if they were all holding their breath, waiting for a sign, a miracle in the shape of a visitor. She closed her eyes for a moment, imagining Tommy's laughter. No matter how daunting the moment ahead, she had to try. Fighting through layers of uncertainty, Maria stepped out of the kitchen. As she approached the living room, the knocking echoed again, insistent and urgent. The door swung open, revealing a tall figure cloaked in worry. It was Mr. West, looking more fatigued than she had ever seen him. His shoulders were slightly slumped, the weight of the world narrowing his sharp features. Behind him loomed a doctor, complete with a clipboard and a harried expression. The air grew heavier with anticipation. "Doctor!" Mr. West exclaimed, stepping aside to let the man enter. "What do we need to do? Please, I can't lose her." "Mr. West," the doctor began, shifting his gaze from the anxious father to the mother who had twisted herself into the corner of the sofa, glancing between the doctor and the floor. "We need to prepare for a bone marrow transplant. It's her best chance." Maria's heart skipped a beat. The chilling word sent a shockwave through the room, bringing clarity to her tumultuous thoughts. This was it. This was her moment. Could it be that her very DNA could offer a solution in a way the wealth of the West family never could? After the doctor finished explaining the procedure and the urgency behind it, the West stood in stunned silence. Maria's mind was racing. Could she really offer herself? She could almost feel her own nerve cells firing, pushing her body forward against the tide of anxiety. She stepped from the shadows of the kitchen into the harsh light of the living room. "I can help," she blurted out, her voice trembling yet firm. The room went instantly quiet, eyes turning toward her, bewildered and wide in surprise. Mrs. West glanced at her, teetering between disbelief and hope. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice a dull whisper. "I had my DNA tested a while back. I could be a match. I could be a donor," Maria rushed out, each word tumbling over the last. In the face of their shock and skepticism, she felt a new kind of courage building within her. Mr. West blinked, exchanging an incredulous look with his wife. There was a space of seconds that stretched into eternity. Maria's heart pounded as she waited for them to digest her offer. Would they consider it? Or would she just become a faceless figure in the chaos of their lives? The doctor stepped forward, his expression turning to one of interest. "It is indeed possible, we can test her sample alongside Lily's. It could very well be the solution," he asserted, the air thickened with the weight of possibility. Maria felt lightheaded, as if she had just plunged into icy water. This was her chance to save a girl's life, to earn respect in ways she had only dreamed of. And for her son, this could mean a brighter future, but with hope blossoming in her chest was an air of uncertainty. What if they saw her only as a maid again once this was over? Did she dare to let herself believe she could be valued beyond her role? As Mr. West nodded, a hint of desperation flashing across his face, the doctor gestured for Maria to follow him outside to a testing area. It was now or never. With each step forward, she felt the weight of her reality shift, paving a path towards something she never imagined possible. But even as excitement flared within her, the shadows of doubt loomed large. What would happen if their lives intertwined permanently? Would she be able to protect her newfound self-worth while becoming a savior? In the midst of a family's turmoil, Maria surged forward, leaving fears behind. And just as she prepared to step out into that unknown, she heard a soft voice behind her whisper, "Thank you, but..." The warmth of her offer hung precariously in the air, leaving an undeniable question: could a life be changed forever in this balancing act of hope? Maria stepped into the hallway, her breaths coming quickly as she followed the doctor. The walls felt like they were closing in, each painting watching her with gazes heavy with judgment. She glanced back at the West family, their expressions mixing hope and vulnerability. Her heart swelled for them. This was more than just about clans, hierarchies, or wealth. It was about a little girl named Lily, fighting for her life. The doctor led her to a small room, brightly lit yet stark. A sterile environment that felt as alien as the world she was stepping into. "We'll take a quick blood sample," he said, motioning for her to sit. She sank into the chair, her palms sweaty against the cool plastic. "What if I'm not a match?" The words slipped out before she could catch them, tinged with a lingering fear. The doctor met her gaze with a reassuring smile. "The odds are in your favor, but even if you aren't, you're still doing something invaluable by stepping up. It's a brave choice." His words echoed in her mind, resonating with the courage she mustered to arrive here. Seconds later, the needle pierced her skin, and she winced at the sharp sting. Watching the blood fill the vial, a strange sense of power surged through her. She was contributing, she was part of something bigger. Once the sample was taken, the doctor pulled out his clipboard again, this time reviewing Lily's medical history. "We'll be awaiting the results," he said, glancing up at Maria. But I need to ask, how do you feel about this decision? Maria hesitated for a moment, her heart racing. She felt exposed, like a thread in the fabric of this wealthy family that could just easily be pulled away. It feels right, she finally said. I know that this can change everything for her, and I want to try. The doctor nodded, understanding her determination. Just so you know, while this has the potential to save Lily's life, it's also important to consider how this might change your life. Sacrifice can be a double-edged sword. His words sang in her ears. She could lose herself in the process, the thought quickened her pulse. But Lily, the sweet girl she glimpsed from a distance, was worth every risk. A knock at the door broke her thoughts, and the doctor stepped aside to allow Mr. West to enter. His eyes were filled with a fierce mix of desperation and gratitude. Maria, he started, his voice rough, what you're doing it's beyond words. He ran a hand over his worn-out face, the reality of his daughter's situation weighing heavily on him. I can't thank you enough. In that moment, she felt something significant shift. Mr. West's gratitude wasn't about status, it was about life, a connection beyond money and class. That acknowledgement was a spark igniting something deep within her. Just please do everything you can for her, she said earnestly, her eyes locking with his. Outside the small room, the atmosphere felt heavy with anticipation. Each passing moment stretched like an eternity, but Maria braced herself for the uncertainty that lay ahead. The doctor would send the samples for testing, and they would wait. What would happen when the results came in? Would she be celebrated, or would this effort merely be forgotten when the reality of the West's world scattered her into the background once again? Back in the living room, she could see the West family gathered together, anxiety etched on their faces. They looked up when she stepped out, and a glimmer of hope flickered within their eyes. Maria was suddenly aware of how interconnected their lives had become with just a few words. Hope intertwining with terror, like a sweet melody held together by fragile notes that could break at any moment. As these thoughts swirled in her mind, her phone vibrated in her pocket. The screen lit up displaying a message from her son. Mom, when are you coming home? A rush of emotion flooded her, the weight of Lily's fight, the pressure of her own family, and the fear of stepping into the unknown all collided within her. Would she be able to piece together the two worlds she now straddled? After a few moments of silence, Maria squared her shoulders. She had made her choice. Whatever happened next, she had to believe that her decision could change everything, but as the uncertainty loomed, one thought lingered in the air: could she really navigate this delicate balance between saving a life and protecting her own? Maria stood at the threshold, a swirl of emotions battling within her. The West family's anxious faces loomed large in her mind. They were all waiting for her, counting on her, while back home, her son was waiting too. She walked into this war zone of emotions with the intention of helping Lily, but now she felt like a soldier stuck in a battlefield. Maria? Mr. West's voice broke through her thoughts. How are you holding up? Just, taking it all in, she replied, forcing a smile that felt shakier than she intended. She looked at the Wests, their hope shining through the worn edges of worry. They were clinging to her like a lifeline, and for the first time, their wealth seemed irrelevant in the face of life's fragility. Mrs. West stood nearby, her face drawn and pale. Is there anything we can do for you? She asked, her concern genuine. No, really. I'm okay, Maria replied, but her heart was heavy. The gravity of this moment wasn't lost on her. She was inextricably tied to their fate, and part of her wished for a simple escape. You're doing so much already, Mr. West said, his voice quivering slightly. I want you to know that. We're grateful, more than we can express. Thank you. The words felt inadequate. Just then, Lily's laughter echoed down the hall, light and carefree like a chime. It was a harsh contrast to the thick tension that surrounded them in the living room. What if? Mrs. West started but paused, as if the words were too heavy to bear. What if Lily doesn't make it? Her voice trembled, raw and fragile, pushing Maria's heart against her chest. In that moment, Maria was struck with the weight of their fear. To them, it was not just about losing a child, it was the potential end of their family's future. A child simply not making it sounded unbearable. A part of Maria longed for reassurance that everything would be okay. "I can't promise anything," Maria said gently, "but I'm here for Lily." The tension eased slightly as they all nodded. They were united in some strange, powerful way, three families now linked, fighting for one life. Still, doubt bubbled beneath the surface. Could she truly be the answer to their prayers? Would her sacrifice be enough? Her phone buzzed again. The urgent message from her son echoed in her mind. "Mom, please hurry home." Each word tugged at her heart. She felt the sting of guilt. Was she abandoning him for a child's life she barely knew? She took a deep breath, wrestling with the aching question that wouldn't he leave her alone. Was it selfish to want both? "Maria?" Mr. West's voice broke the uncomfortable silence again. "We're in this together." "Together," she echoed. The word felt heavy, loaded with so many hopes and fears intertwined. Just then, the door swung open, and the doctor walked in. Everyone's gaze shifted to him, as if he were a magician about to reveal his greatest trick. A silence stretched as he approached, clipboard in hand, the weight of those moments intensifying. "I have the results," he said, meeting each of their eyes. Maria's heart pumped wildly. Would it be hope or despair? In that heartbeat of anticipation, every possibility unfurled, and they all held their breath, waiting for the life-altering news that could reshape everything. Her own strength felt like a distant pulse now. The moment felt bigger than her. What would happen next? Whatever it was, it would change them all forever. As their fate hung in the balance, one question lingered in the air: what if the results weren't what they had hoped for? The doctor cleared his throat, a gesture that sent shards of anxiety racing through the room. Maria felt her palms grow clammy as she gripped the edge of the sofa, the fabric coarse against her skin. The Wests leaned forward as if their very bodies could pull the words from him. "Lily's situation is critical," he started, and a sharp intake of breath echoed from Mrs. West. "However, there is a potential solution. We need to discuss a bone marrow transplant." Maria's stomach dropped. She had steeled herself for bad news, but now it felt like a sinking ship was dragging her down alongside it. Bone marrow. The word seemed distant, vague, echoing in her mind like a foreign language. All she could think about was her son. The moment seemed suspended, like time held its breath with her. "Who can donate?" Mr. West asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The desperation was palpable, clinging to the air like smoke. "Family members have the best chance of matching," but the doctor paused, surveying the room. "It's possible that someone outside the family could be a match." Maria's heart beat faster. The thought surged through her: could it be her? She had always been healthy, and despite the guilt that gnawed at her, a flicker of hope ignited. "I'll get tested," she said, her voice surprising even herself. It came out stronger than she felt, a steady resolve emerging from the storm of doubt within her. "If it helps Lily, I want to see if I can be a match." The Wests blinked at her, caught between disbelief and gratitude. Tears sparkled in Mrs. West's eyes. You would really do that? For our Lily?" "Yes," Maria replied, her heart swelling. How strange, she thought, that she could feel such warmth and resolve in the face of something so daunting. "I can't just stand by and do nothing." Mr. West nodded, his expression shifting from worry to a hopeful glimmer. "You're incredible, Maria. We can arrange the screening right away." "Thank you." Suddenly, the weight of guilt that had stuck to Maria like a second skin began to dissipate. Perhaps this could be her way of balancing the scales, a chance to give back in a world that had taken so much. But then her phone vibrated again, pulling her back to reality. Another message from her son, "Mom, please, I need you here." The words felt like a physical blow, a punch in the gut. Conflicting emotions churned in her. Should she prioritize the desperate call of her own child over this chance to save a life? Blue eyes stared back at her from the family that was just beginning to trust her. The stakes had never been higher. "I'll be there for Lily," she murmured, her voice steady now, "but I also have to get home to my son." The struggle was written on her face, a burden wrestling against the weight of what this family needed. "Do what you can," Mr. West said, stepping closer, his hand gripping her shoulder comfortingly. "We'll wait for you. You belong with both of us, Maria. Thank you for stepping up." As they exchanged glances, a shared understanding hung heavy in the air. Maria felt the warmth of their hope entwine with her own, but it didn't ease the chaos within her heart. Choices pressed against her like a vice. With one last glance at the door, she realized that whatever came next would impact them all. Her heart raced, certain that in this complicated web, she was tied to both families. What if a simple blood test would change their fate forever? The uncertainty loomed like a storm on the horizon, bringing an impending sense of dread. How would she break the news to her son? And as she prepared to step back into the world outside, what would happen if the test revealed she was not a match? The air outside was laden with a tension that mirrored her inner turmoil. Maria stepped into the brisk evening, her breath forming small clouds as she tried to clear her mind. The Wests needed her, but the body of her son was calling her like a beacon. Each step to her car weighed down by expectations and fears. She felt torn. What could she say to Jack? He needed her. When she left that morning, his smile had been a brighter sun than any guiding star. She couldn't shake the image of his big eyes, full of love, now clouded with worry. Would he understand her choice? Sliding into the driver's seat, Maria's hands shook. She glanced at her phone again. The screen lit up with his name, Jack. The sight was like a jolt of electricity racing through her veins. She pressed her fingers on the screen but hesitated. What would she tell him? "Mom, come home," the message echoed in her mind. It wasn't just a request, it felt like a lifeline. She breathed deeply, focusing on the rhythm of the passing cars, the rustling leaves in the fading light. She reminded herself to stay calm. If she could muster courage for Lily, she could surely face the storm waiting at home for Jack. Her phone chimed. A text from Mrs. West. "Thank you again, Maria. You're our hope." The warmth in those words sent a shiver through her. Lily's life hung in the balance, and here she was, caught in a moment of impossible choices. "God, what am I doing?" she whispered. She took a deep breath, steeling herself. "Okay, Jack. I'm coming," she finally typed back, the clarity in her decision cutting through the mess of emotions. As she started the engine, the force of her determination was like releasing a drawn bow. Her drive home was a blur. The streetlights blinked by in a steady parade, each one highlighting the growing anxiety she felt. Maria turned her phone off, wanting to focus on the moment ahead, on her son and what she had to face. Pulling into the driveway, she caught a glimpse of Jack through the window. He was sitting on the couch, his little fingers grasping a toy, but his eyes were glued to the door, waiting. Her heart twisted at the sight. Without a second thought, she hurried inside. He looked up, and the moment their eyes met, everything else faded. All the uncertainty, the choices, the desperate fight felt insignificant next to the love reflected in his gaze. "Mom!" he shouted, leaping off the couch and running into her arms. "Hey, buddy!" Maria's voice cracked as she knelt to wrap him tightly in her embrace. She felt the warmth of his small body mold against hers. In that instant, everything seemed right again. But reality crashed back, in an overwhelming rush of guilt flooded her thoughts. She had dedicated part of her heart to the Wests, risking their trust, and now here she was. "I have something to tell you," she began, pulling back slightly to meet his searching eyes. "There's a girl named Lily. Is she sick?" Jack asked, his voice soft, curious yet laced with concern. Yes, she is. And her family needs help, she continued, trying to find the right words to explain the path that lay ahead for them both, balancing the weight of a fragile hope. But Mom, you always say we help when someone needs us. Her heart sank. He was right. I know, sweetheart. And sometimes helping means making big choices, she replied. The understanding in his eyes was complicated, but she could see he was processing her words, trying to comprehend the world at stake. Then can we help her? Jack asked earnestly, his small hand gripping hers tightly. A sudden wave of awareness washed over her. Their home had always been a sanctuary of compassion and support. Yes, Maria answered, filled with newfound resolve. We're going to try. As Jack grinned, a flicker of hope ignited in her heart. It was then that Maria realized they would face this together, as a family. But just as a smile began to spread across her face, a mysterious feeling tugged at her. What would happen when the test results came back? Would hope turn to despair? Would she be strong enough to handle what was lying ahead? The warmth of the moment faded as Maria knelt in front of Jack, feeling the weight of her choices settle heavily on her shoulders. She held his small hands in hers, searching for the right words, but words felt so trivial now. The gravity of Lily's situation loomed over them, a reminder of just how precarious life could be. Mom, what's wrong? Jack's voice pulled her from her thoughts. His brow furrowed, genuine worry etched across his young face. She opened her mouth to respond, but the fear gripped her once more. Would explaining this to Jack shatter the innocence of his world? It's just there's so much we don't know yet, she finally said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Are we going to help her? Jack asked again, determination shining in his expression. His trust in her was like a lifebuoy, keeping her afloat in turbulent seas. Yes, she assured, her voice thicker than she intended. We'll figure this out together. The bond they shared filled her with strength. Yet, the deeper reality of their decision settled in. It wasn't just about helping Lily, it meant supporting the West family through a terrible crisis. The stakes were high, and guilt gnawed at her. Was she really prepared to give more of herself to strangers? Jack's enthusiasm was infectious. Can we bring her toys? She'll need something to play with. His energy was a stark contrast to the storm of uncertainty swirling within Maria. What a great idea. And maybe we can bake cookies for her too. Maria replied, trying to channel Jack's excited spirit. Chocolate chip. He beamed, as if that single thought could eclipse their heavier worries. They began mapping out a plan together, choosing toys, suggesting games, and even decorating cookies. Being absorbed in preparation helped Maria momentarily escape the reality of their situation. She wanted to be upbeat for Jack, to shield him from the harshness that lay ahead. In the kitchen, flour drifted like snowflakes as Jack poured ingredients into a large mixing bowl. The slight chaos was comforting, it felt like any other day. But underneath every laugh as cookie dough splattered, Maria felt a tightening in her chest. Mom? Jack's voice broke through her thoughts. Yeah, buddy? She asked, wiping her hands on a towel. What happens if Lily doesn't get better? The straightforwardness of his question hit her like a punch. She knelt beside him, taking a deep breath. Sometimes in life, things don't go as we wish. We can only do our best to be there for each other, and that's important. But you're going to help her, right? Jack pressed, his little fingers fiddling with the cookie dough. I am, Maria promised. And I'll make sure you're right there with me. He nodded, satisfied for the moment, but the worry still flickered in his eyes. They continued baking, but Maria found her mind wandering, circling back to the Wests and the hard road ahead. As night fell, they filled the cookie jar. The smell wafted through the house, grounding her amid the uncertainty. She watched Jack grin as he admired their handiwork, and for fleeting seconds, her trepidation melted away, but that calm was short-lived. Later, as she tucked Jack in, she felt a twinge of fear creep back in. The next day would bring their first visit to the Wests, and the reality of meeting Lily weighed heavily on her mind. When she finally crawled into bed, sleep eluded her. Thoughts spiraled around the question that haunted her since leaving the Wests that day. What if their help wasn't enough? As she lay there in the dark, doubt clawed at her. Would their family's love be enough to bridge the gap between hope and despair? Just when she thought she might drift off, the sound of her phone vibrating on the nightstand jolted her awake. A message. It was from Mrs. West. "We need you, Maria. More than you know." The urgency in those words sent a chill down her spine. What lay ahead was uncharted territory, and she wasn't ready yet. There was no turning back now. With her heart racing, she stared at the phone screen, realizing in that moment that tomorrow would launch them into a new chapter full of uncertainty, pressing forward into unknown waters. But what lay beneath the surface? Was there more than simple hope waiting for them? Morning light crept through the curtains, pulling Maria from the remnants of a restless night. She rubbed her eyes, fighting the urge to bury her head back into the pillow. Today was the day they would meet Lily. The anticipation thrummed in the air, clashing with her apprehension. Jack bounded into the room, his energy a stark contrast to her weariness. "Mom! Are we ready?" He clutched a colorful bag filled with toys, his eyes sparkling with hope. She couldn't dampen his spirit, not now. "We are. Just give me a few minutes," she replied, forcing a smile. As they prepared, Maria's mind swirled with thoughts. What if Lily was scared? What if they didn't connect? A small part of her feared stepping into a situation that felt overwhelmingly heavy, yet another part urged her on. They weren't just going to meet a girl, they were stepping into the lives of a family in the midst of turmoil. On the drive to the West's home, the world outside rushed by blooming trees, children playing, and dogs barking. Jack chatted about his favorite games, his laughter filling the car, but Maria barely heard him. The image of Lily, frail and needing their support, clouded her thoughts. When they arrived, Maria took a deep breath before exiting the car. The West's house loomed large, a beautiful facade that belied the pain it contained. As they approached the door, Maria's stomach churned. Before she could knock, the door swung open. Mrs. West stood there, her eyes glowing with gratitude and an undercurrent of anxiety. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Of course," Maria responded, returning the smile she hoped masked her own fears. Just then, Jack rushed forward, his excitement spilling over. "We brought toys and cookies." The tension eased a fraction as Mrs. West chuckled softly. "That's wonderful, Jack. Lily will be so happy." She led them inside, where the faint smell of antiseptic mingled with the sweetness of baked goods. The house felt eerily quiet. Maria felt Jack's small hand squeeze hers as they entered a bright, cheerfully decorated living room. It felt at odds with the reality they were about to face. Maria's heart pounded. Lily's in her room. "I'll take you there," Mrs. West said, her voice steady but strained. As they walked down the hallway, Maria stole glances at pictures on the walls. Lily smiling, playing with friends, celebrating birthdays, and the love that oozed from each captured moment. Each image felt like a shard of glass, reminding her of the fragility of life. When they reached the door, Mrs. West hesitated before opening it. "Are you ready?" she asked quietly. Maria nodded, gripping Jack's hand tighter. The door swung open, revealing a small girl with bright hair, lying propped up against pillows. At first, Lily looked slightly startled, her big brown eyes widening as they entered. The room was filled with toys, more than Maria had expected. "Hi, Lily," Jack said loudly, as if he were calling to an old friend. He rushed forward, holding out a toy figure. "I brought this for you." Lily's expression softened, a little smile creeping onto her lips. "Thank you." Her voice was weak, but her spirit shone through. Maria felt a rush of warmth, a flicker of hope igniting in her chest. As they settled into conversation, laughter began to dance in the room. Jack's chatter flowed like magic, breaking the tension. Maria felt herself relax, a weight lifting. Perhaps this wasn't going to be as daunting as she'd feared, but just as joy enveloped them, Maria noticed Mrs. West standing off to the side, tears brimming in her eyes. That look mirrored all the emotions swirling within Maria. They were moments of bliss tinged with an understanding of the storm brewing just outside their smiles. "Can I show you my drawings?" Lily's soft voice brought Maria back to the moment. "Yes, please." They shifted their focus to the bright artwork that adorned the walls. As Lily showcased her creations, Maria felt the heaviness of her mission settle within her. They would do everything they could, but the reality of what lay ahead loomed. Suddenly, Jack turned serious. "Mom, what if Lily gets better? Can we play together forever?" Maria's heart skipped, caught between hope and despair. "We just want to make sure she knows she's not alone," she said gently. But the question lingered, hanging in the air like a delicate thread ready to snap. Would their small efforts truly make a difference? And what other challenges were on the horizon? Just then, Maria heard Lily's soft voice break through. "Sometimes, hope is the strongest thing we have." With those words wrapped around her, Maria realized they were all about to embark on a journey filled with the unexpected. What awaited them in the days to come? The next turn was shrouded in uncertainty, but hope whispered a promise they could not ignore. As the afternoon sunlight began to wane, heavy shadows settled in the corners of the room, creating an atmosphere both cozy and somber. Maria found herself engrossed in Lily's drawings, each colorful character bursting with vitality, a stark contrast to the stillness that surrounded them. Jack leaned in closer, his eyes wide with admiration. "Did you draw this all by yourself?" he exclaimed, pointing to a vibrant watercolor of what looked like a park filled with children playing. Lily smiled shyly, a small blush creeping onto her cheeks. "Yes. That's South, my favorite place. I used to go there all the time." Before her voice trailed off, the weight of her words palpable. Maria felt a lump form in her throat. She could sense the fragility of the moment a bright spark caught in the darkness. "It's beautiful," Maria said gently, hoping her voice would be a soothing balm for the unspoken pain. "What do you like to do at the park?" "I like to swing high into the sky," Lily said, her eyes lighting up. "And then I pretend I can touch the clouds." Jack giggled at the thought. "I bet you could fly if you tried hard enough." The genuine laughter that followed felt like a small victory against the encroaching heaviness. For that fleeting moment, hope floated freely, but reality returned as Maria noticed Mrs. West walking into the room. The smile on the woman's face seemed forced, and Maria could see the tension in her posture. "Lily," Mrs. West began softly, "we should probably take a little break. I made some tea." But her words hung in the air, heavy with unsaid worries. Maria quickly sensed the precious time was fleeting. "Can we stay a little longer, Mom?" Jack pressed, his youthful persistence shining through. "Lily just told me I'd be her cloud friend." "Cloud friend?" Mrs. West echoed, her brow furrowing in confusion. "Yeah. Lily swings high in the sky like a cloud," Jack explained excitedly. Lily beamed at the compliment, and Maria felt her heart swell at the innocence of childhood amidst such difficult circumstances. "Yes, please," Lily piped up, her voice gaining strength. "I like having friends here." The three adults exchanged glances. Maria nodded in encouragement. How could she say no when that small voice had so much earnestness? "Okay," Maria relented, but only for a little while longer. "We should go home before it gets too dark." Lily's face lit up with joy, and Maria couldn't help but smile back. In this small space of time, they shared stories, laughter, and the bonds of friendship that seemed to stretch beyond the confines of the room. As they reveled in this new connection, Maria caught a glimpse of Mrs. West wiping away tears, a mixture of relief and sorrow etched across her features. Maria should have felt discomfort, but instead, an unexpected calm washed over her. "Thank you for coming," Mrs. West said, her eyes shining. "You have no idea how much this means to us." "Being here is a gift for us, too," Maria replied, wishing she could convey the depths of her heart, yet, despite the warmth shared, a shadow of uncertainty surfaced. The reality of their situation lingered, as did the potential heartache. What would happen if Lily's condition worsened? Could they maintain this hopeful connection? Just then, Lily asked, "Can you bring us more toys next time? I want to have a big party." Jack nodded vigorously. "And we can invite everyone. It will be awesome." Maria's heart tightened at the innocent enthusiasm. "We'll bring everything we can," she promised. As they prepared to leave, Maria caught a glance at Lily's south drawing of the park once more. The lines danced with stories yet to be told, adventures to be had, and friendships yet to blossom. But somewhere inside, a nagging thought echoed, what if they couldn't hold on to this hope? Just as they stepped outside, a cool breeze brushed against her skin, hinting at changes to come. Maria's heart raced with uncertainty, but also a fierce determination burned within her. What happens now? She whispered to herself, looking back at the house that now felt infused with both light and shadows. Little did she know, a pivotal moment awaited, one that would challenge everything they had come to believe about hope and healing. As they drove away, the sun dipped below the horizon, but the true journey was just beginning. What would they discover together in the days ahead? The following days unfolded like a kaleidoscope, each moment bursting with color, love, and the tangle of worry that cornered Maria and the West family. After their first visit with Lily, they started to weave themselves into each other's lives. Jack eagerly planned for their next trip to the West mansion, listing toys and games he could bring along, while Maria wore a smile that betrayed the storm of uncertainty brewing inside her heart. Everyone anticipated the results of the bone marrow test. Days turned into a blur of anxious waiting, filled with phone calls and hurried texts. Yet, through it all, hope flickered within the warmth of the friendships forming. Each moment with Lily wasn't just about saving a life, it was about forging connections that transcended their differences. Finally, the day arrived when the doctor called Maria into the room. Her heart raced. Would the news be what they all prayed for? As she stood before him, the walls of the room seemed to pulse with golden rays of possibility, each breath a silent prayer. "Maria," the doctor said, "the test results are in. I'm pleased to tell you that you are a match for Lily." Her heart soared. A gasp escaped her lips as joyful tears gathered. The West family had fought the hardest battles, and here was a clear pathway toward a life-saving chance for their daughter. The doctor continued, his tone now serious. "However, it's important to discuss the next steps and the risk involved. It will be a procedure where you enter under anesthesia, and like any medical procedure, it carries risks." Maria listened, but her mind was already filled with Lily's laughter and Jack's bright eyes, believing earnestly in the goodness of the work they would do together. Afterward, she ran from the hospital into the crisp air, swallowing her fears. She texted the West family, "I'm a match. Let us meet." When they gathered later that afternoon at the mansion, the mood was electrifying. Mrs. West, tears of relief shimmering in her eyes, embraced her tightly. "You've given us a reason to hope again," she whispered, her voice cracking with emotion. Jack jumped into the conversation. "We can beat this together, right, Lily?" He flashed his infectious grin, full of youthful optimism. "Yes. We can have a party after." Lily chimed in, her tiny fist pumping triumphantly, the laughter that followed intermingled with the remnants of worry floating in the air. Yet Maria sensed the shifts within herself. More than the chance to save a life, she was becoming part of a family, a connection that had proved to be stronger than class, wealth, or status. As preparations for the procedure drew near, Maria felt an unfamiliar strength swell within her. It would be tough, she'd have to endure pain and uncertainty, but deep inside, she was fueled by something greater than fear: community, love, and an unwavering belief that they could pull through this together. Days passed as they headed toward the procedure. It was an emotional roller coaster for everyone. Maria leaned on the Wests, allowing herself to savor the comfort of their shared whispers, mutual fears, and soaring hopes. On the night before the surgery, she laid in bed, aching for her son, who she knew was waiting anxiously. The next morning, she would face the unknown, and she felt the gravity of her choice pressing against her chest. Her phone buzzed. Jack's smile lit up the screen. "Good luck, Mom. You're a hero." His words strengthened her resolve. As if pierced through by love, she knew there was no other path she would choose. The surgery day dawned bright and cold. Maria arrived at the hospital, a flurry of nervous energy thrumming through her. The Wests hugged her tightly before she entered the surgical room. "You've got this," Mrs. West murmured with a fierce determination. And the bonds of support wrapped around her warmly like a cozy blanket. She stepped into the unknown. The anesthesia worked fast, pulling her gently into a dreamlike haze. When Maria awoke, the harsh fluorescent lights of the recovery room welcomed her back to reality. She felt a sense of emptiness where her nerves had once vibrated with anxiety. A wave of warmth washed over her as she remembered her purpose: the little girl waiting for her miracle, a piece of herself now shared in a profound way. Soon after, the doctor came in, his demeanor one of calm reassurance. "You did it, Maria. The transplant was successful. We are optimistic about Lily's recovery." Tears escaped. She was alive to feel this announcement, and for the first time in weeks, the weight of worry replaced itself with light. Days turned to weeks as the Wests visited daily, sharing stories with Maria and helping her through recovery. Laughter bounced in the air, and the atmosphere shifted from one heavy with fear to one filled with hope and healing. Finally, one sunny afternoon, they received news about Lily. As Maria and Jack sat together in the living room of the Wests' house, a knock echoed. The door swung open and there stood Lily, fragile yet radiant, bolstered by a smile that brightened the entire room. "Maria. I feel better." Lily's voice rang out, filled with a happiness that overcame the previous shadows. The West family surged forward, laughter and joy spilling over as they enveloped Lily in a massive hug. Maria watched, her heart swelled. She had given a part of herself, and in return, she received immeasurable love that healed not only a girl but the thread of hope binding together two families. As they celebrated, Maria turned to Jack. "Look what we did, buddy. We brought sunshine back," she said, feeling her chest warm with pride. Jack beamed. "We're a team now." That day marked a new chapter, intertwined with resilience and transformation. They were no longer defined by their class, job titles, or expectations but by a shared story of hope and compassion that resonated in their hearts. The road ahead now didn't seem as daunting. The spirit of kindness that connected them blossomed, inspiring everyone to embrace the beauty in helping others and redefining what it meant to be family. So as their laughter filled the air, remember, it only takes one act of courage to change lives forever. You need to subscribe now to catch more stories like this one. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below what did you think of this incredible journey. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel the magic of transformation. The power of love and courage can redefine lives. Be part of the change.